All right. Hello, Patriots. Today is September 28th, 2021. I'm Jay Delancey, alias Boot Checker, and we have our update for the day. And as I do this, I'm going to give you more of a concept of what we're doing and what this is trying to do. And by the way, it won't always be at 10 a.m., but I try and shoot for 10 for now. And as we make improvements, we'll probably slide it till later in the day. And who knows, maybe one day it'll be a lot more professional and a lot later in the day. But for now, this is what you got. And what we're going to do is take a national story and tie it back to North Carolina so you see, so what? Because election law is so funny the way it works. It's so different than any other state laws, just about any other state laws. I guess technically you could probably do the same thing with gun laws to show what works in other states and push for better gun laws. I mean, hey, let's see, what are they called? My favorite gun lobby, Grassroots NC. Are you listening? Are you listening? Anyway, they could do the same thing that we're trying to do. I'm going to start though today, get right off on this, and I got a surprise for you. This is going to be, I managed to get some focused prep today. We have work going on in our house. We've moved to Sanford. It's a pain in the neck, but we're getting there. And pretty soon we'll be having people come over and see our house. But for now, you don't want to see it. It's just too bad. Boy, that'd be a great screenshot of me, wouldn't it? What I just did. Okay, anyway. Proverbs for today. Today's the 28th. So we look in Proverbs chapter 28 and go, I wonder what's there. As I say to people, if you're not going to get up and read a whole lot of the Bible every day, at least read Proverbs. You don't even have to be a Christian to read Proverbs. It's just good advice. It's about wisdom. And by the way, it comes from God, but set that aside. It's just good advice. You're going to read Confucius, or you're going to throw the I Ching. Why not read Proverbs too? Or read your horoscope? Read Proverbs. Just one chapter a day. And, but it reads you. I got to warn you. That's why you don't want to do it, because you're afraid it will read you. I know. It's like the sorting hat on Harry Potter, but I've made reference to that before. You don't read Proverbs as much as it reads you. Today, what jumped out at me was Proverbs 28 and verse 4. Those who forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. Those who forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. So which are you? Are you one of those who are going to praise the wicked, or are you one of those who are going to contend with those who forsake the law? And today we're going to talk about that. I'm going to switch right over to our, I don't know, maybe the hero of the day is certainly this guy, Senator Doug Mastriano. He is, this is a guy who contends with the wicked. He's in Pennsylvania. We don't have to my knowledge, we have some patriots like that in North Carolina legislature, but they're having to lay low right now because the wicked are running rampant over there. So the courageous ones haven't found their courage enough to fight. There are some who are fighting in their own way. I'm not saying, I want to be careful. There are some who are doing good work over there, but there's not enough. And we'll tie back to that later. If you're looking at the screen, you'll see Doug Mastriano has spent 30 years in the U.S. Army and a veteran of Desert Storm in Afghanistan. He's a senator for Pennsylvania's 33rd district. Follows or not endorsements. Anyway, there's more to say about Doug, a lot more. You might recall that if you watched the Pennsylvania legislative hearings that they had after the election, when they wanted to get to the bottom of this, Mastriano was a star at those hearings. And of course, little jealous leadership didn't like that. But this is our problem within the Republican Party. You have, he runs in his state is a Republican state. And I may have jumped ahead here. Let me see. I want to switch over to here. Mastriano, that's his Twitter page. You might check him out, Senator Doug Mastriano. Because he got himself in a bit of trouble because he picked a fight with the bad guys He's a committee chair, and as a committee chair, he decided to, I'm going to go back here. As a committee chair, he decided to use his power to subpoena certain information that made election officials very uncomfortable. See, they had problems there. Those are Dominion machines there. We have problems here. Ours are ES&S machines. We have problems. We have a lot of unanswered questions in North Carolina about our voting machines. And they had those same kinds of questions in Pennsylvania. So Mastriano, because of all the publicity Dominion gets, it's easier to do this. The cowardice around ES&S, even though they're the largest, they're much bigger than Dominion. The cowardice to go up against ES&S, it's really interesting. It's just something to go, kind of one of those mysteries, like how Republicans never elect attorney generals that are Republicans in North Carolina. They always elect Democrats. It's just one of those weird things. But anyway, ES&S is very powerful. And Mastriano did not pick a fight with ES&S. He picked a fight with Dominion. And boy, everybody came in on Dominion's defense. What he did was notified 3 problematic counties that he wanted to see their, he wanted to get some access to their machines. And he got access to the machines in one county. And the state pushed back, the empire struck back. If you're watching, I'll read to you here. Let's see. A voluntary probe was at the request of Senator Doug Mastriano from Gettysburg area, ironically, who's currently spearheading a larger effort to audit machines in Tioga, York, and Philadelphia County. Now, what happened was Fulton County. They had participated in the third-party audit. In other words, they had helped Brother Mastriano in his investigation, and I'm thinking they turned over some machines to Mastriano, or let him inspect them in some way, or let his staff inspect them. As a result of that, the state struck back. The headline says, Pennsylvania State Department decertifies Fulton County voting machines after third-party audit. That third party was not the third party, it was the legislature. See, they have this power called original jurisdiction, original ownership of the election enterprise. It's in the US Constitution, and that filters down to all the state constitutions as well. So one legislator at his committee level, since his leadership at the House wouldn't do it, he did it from his committee chairmanship. And oh boy, the fur flew. Sheesh. Okay, this is what happens with live stream TV. So the empire struck back in the form of somebody named Veronica DeGraffenreid. Well, let me read you more of this story here. It says, Acting Secretary of State Veronica DeGraffenreid said Wednesday that she has no other choice after Fulton County officials confirmed that Wake Technology Services accessed its Dominion voting machines earlier this year, violating the state's chain of custody provisions and other strict limitations designed to prevent tampering. Now think about this. Every election, our North Carolina, Pennsylvania, every state does this. They have this braggadocious big ceremony. They put out a press release saying, we have updated and certified our machines ready for the next election, for the upcoming election. Ha, dig me, I have done this, says your state board of elections on their website with a lot of ruffles and flourishes. So they certify them, but you can't look inside of them. If you do, they will decertify them. Okay, great, then just recertify them. No, you have to buy new machines. We're not going to recertify those machines because you touched them. Your cooties are on them. It's just, it fails the sniff test that they respond that hard about it. They push back that hard. Instead of just say, okay, we got to run some tests and recertify the machine. hey, if that's the way it ought to work, but it doesn't work that way. So now they have to throw those machines away. Fine. Can I have one? Anyway. Yeah, by the way, I'd love to have an ES&S DS200 if anybody's got one for sale. Donate it to our nonprofit so we can use it for research purposes. I'll be very happy to help you with that. Get a hold of us and I'll be happy to do that. We're voterintegrityproject.com. That's our website, and you can get a hold of me there if you want to donate a tabulation machine. We'll put it in our soon-to-be museum, or one day anyway. That's the plan. Not real soon, but our election integrity museum or election fraud museum. Okay, I digress. Veronica DeGraffenreid. Why is that name familiar? We go back to the Wayback Machine. I'll have her Wikipedia link, but it's a pretty crappy link, like typical. I'll go ahead and show it to you for those who are on our or watching the video. It's they mentioned that she got a degree from that University of New Cheating, the school in Chapel Hill. Anyway, the school that cheats so well in athletics that the NCAA rewrites the rules to make sure they don't get in trouble. It's great, but no, I'm not bitter. I'm not a bitter state fan. No. Just saying. Then she worked as a litigation specialist at Pointer Spruill in Raleigh, a big Democrat law firm. And then she got a job with the North Carolina Department of Justice. And then Gary Bartlett hired her. I'm not going to go into Gary Bartlett today, but Gary, he was director of elections for quite a while, something like 20 years in North Carolina. He knew his days were up when McCrory got elected in 2012, and he retired from North Carolina. But Veronica was one of his number 2 people he left behind. And just as, this is a biblical reference that most of you are not going to get, but when David was betrayed by Absalom, he was able to leave a spy behind who was able at the headquarters level, who thwarted Absalom's other generals and gave Absalom bad advice when the other general gave the right advice that would have gotten David killed. Instead, this guy threw in some bad information. And Absalom said, I like what you're saying. And that's kind of what happened here. Bartlett left DeGraffenreid behind in North Carolina. So Kim Strack got in there, and we were trying to help Strack fix things in good spirit. We thought, okay, we finally got a Republican in there. So I guess we have a reformer in there. So we were showing her what to do. And DeGraffenreid was countermanding us right there in front of us. We were like, and Kim kind of looked at us helplessly with DeGraffenreid and Burris there, her next echelon down leadership, the IT and the election side, the software side and the human side of their entire elections. Both of them were screaming when we wanted them to do something. And I'll tell you about that some other day, but they were screaming about it just immediately. And Kim looked at me like some helpless child who couldn't do anything about it. My staff won't let me do it. You're the leader, but these 2 people that Bartlett left behind won't do it. So DeGraffenreid, that was her position. We also tangled with good old Veronica, or VD as we call her. Let's see, we tangled with her. This slide's out of place. I'll have to come back to it, but I'm going to stop right here. Doggone it. I meant to do this in a different order, and I got sidetracked. Part of our problem, Mastriano got hit with some pardon me, technical correction. I'm going to skip that till later. Doggone it. No, I'm not. I want to, but it won't let me. All right, don't look. Ultimately, we want to get to a slide that shows Rachel Maddow. And what happened was, it went like this. Back in 2012, the deep state was very annoyed with an organization known as Voter Integrity Project. The media did their part. At first, we so caught them off balance with our 30,000 dead people we found in North Carolina. We had a lot of traction out of that because timing was everything. It was the weekend before Labor Day, but immediately following Labor Day was the Democrat National Convention in Charlotte. So we thought, let's get this done before that convention, because if we do it next week, nobody will see it. And turned out to be a very good idea. We just wanted to get it done. We were sick of waiting. We didn't want to wait till after the convention. We said, let's get it done now. So we rushed it out, and we found pretty close to 30,000 dead people on the voter rolls in North Carolina. And I'm not going to go way to the weeds on it, but it's just a real interesting saga of what happened over that. When a boy swings a bat at a hornet's nest, what happens? And they chased us and pretty much left us for dead. And the coup de grace, after about 2.5 weeks of amazing media coverage, all positive that we got, the empire finally struck back, and they used Veronica DeGraffenreid to actually use Rachel Maddow and Jon Stewart. Media Matters put out a story on us, and that very morning, as soon as Media Matters put that story out the night before, the very next morning, we got a call from Jon Stewart's show and from Rachel Maddow's. Stewart left us alone. They came back later and tried to get us, but that's a whole other story. But I talked to their producer, and I basically talked them out of doing the story by telling them the truth about what happened, and that was that. Maddow's producer was a little bit more cunning, and she found a typo on our website that said we were a nonprofit, and they ran with the story on that. And they had some luck regarding a dead woman who wasn't dead, who happened to be Black, and that's a whole other story. Anyway, Bartlett, the director of elections, rolls out VD in that story, Veronica DeGraffenreid, and she came out and talked about what a pain in the neck we were with all these challenges that we had filed and how most of them were wrong. And I noticed they didn't file charges against us about our spurious challenges because we were right and they knew it. It took us, again, another day. We'll talk about dead voters. Today's not that day. Today I'm talking about Veronica DeGraffenreid, and I want to be sure you get a sense of who she is and what a special piece of work she is. You see, Bartlett, when he retired, he influenced other people, and VD stayed behind right here in North Carolina and took care of business here, subverting Kim Strack. And then when Strack left, the next person in charge there, Karen Prissy Bell, was she'd worked for Bartlett in her civilian life, because Bell had been, she was director of elections in a very small county, far western part of North Carolina, wasn't qualified to run even a medium-sized office. She applied for the job in Forsyth after, oh gosh, I'm getting down the weeds, I'm sorry, but Bell was, she was a Bartlett protege. She failed at getting hired in Forsyth County because she wasn't qualified. So she went and worked for Bartlett in the private organization he has, where they're subverting elections through something called ranked choice voting. And they've had some success at subverting and undermining public trust in the electoral process through this mechanism he has called ranked choice voting. And they're trying to push that everywhere, and they've succeeded. You heard about it somewhere last year, I think it was, when some guy in Maine, he won his race, a congressional candidate won his race, but the dumb voters in Maine had a constitutional amendment change to enact ranked choice voting, where it's the populace can do that in Maine. And so enough propaganda and voila, you have it. And they got it. And the voters in Maine, bless their hearts, and they voted for this stupid process. As a result, the guy who won the initial election in ranked choice voting, they turn around and use that to have no primary or no runoff election. Instead, they just rejiggered the math, and voila, the Democrat won. And there you go. They seated a Democrat in Congress. Thank you, Gary Bartlett. That was his organization. Bell worked there. And Bell, as soon as Cooper got in, governor of North Carolina, Bartlett recommended Bell. And when Strack finished doing all the damage she could do and licking the boots of the Democrats, they fired her and they put in Bell, who's now doing serious work. And that's the difference between a rhino and and a Democrat is a rhino will curry favor with Democrats by stabbing patriots in the back, and that's kind of what they do, and that's the McCain. That's the whole thing with him, and that's you know, I don't know why I keep going back to McCain, but you'll see it in the write-up today. That see, McCain was a rhino. That spirit of rhinosity within the Republican Party, Republican in name only. That rhino spirit, he died, but that spirit did not die. Unfortunately, that spirit is alive and well, and that's the problem in North Carolina, and that's the problem in Pennsylvania. Now, DeGraffenreid, she's carrying out the hand of the state by, well, let's just say that DeGraffenreid, she did her part by decertifying the election or the election equipment in Pennsylvania. And this is a problem that she did this, but it's okay. And I do have a link. I will have a link to the Rachel Maddow story on our website when we get it posted later today. If you want to see that video when they took us down, and DeGraffenreid was the hand of the state to do it, but I'm not going to belabor that point right now. Anyway, Mastriano, what he had done, okay, he blamed the Wolf administration because DeGraffenreid is appointed. Apparently, it's not an elected spot. She's appointed as an interim Secretary of State, but ultimately they have an election. Will she win? I don't know. It depends on how well she can rig the elections. If you can rig the election, you can do anything. But they, Mastriano went after them. We'll have a link to this story on our website, but it said, he quoted, he said, on the heels of a veiled threat disguised as a directive to all counties of Pennsylvania 2 weeks ago, the acting Secretary of State is once again abusing the power of her department to punish and intimidate local governments and their taxpayers. And that's it. He said, without any proof, without any proof of compromised parts or an examination of voting machines, the acting Secretary of State is taking upon herself to unilaterally decertify all machines in Fulton County and force the taxpayers of that county to pay for it. Now he goes on and said he went on. This was in July 22nd of this summer. Anyway, this is not about ensuring the machines, quote, continue to meet standards, as the acting secretary stated. This is about sending a message to counties who dare to be transparent about their election process. This message is very clear. Any county who has the audacity to partner with the General Assembly to demonstrate that their elections were secure and accurate will be punished. Okay, so for an entity that has nothing to hide, that had the most honest and upright elections in the history of mankind, dating back to ancient Greece, nothing to hide, yet Veronica DeGraffenreid took this preemptive move to just really intimidate all the directors of elections in the counties, that if you do this, your machines are going to be decertified. You have to buy new machines, or switch to paper only and count all the ballots at the precincts and have Amish voting. You know, there's a cheap way to do this, Veronica, and it could blow back on you that maybe that county, Fulton County, could go with a lower tech solution and prove that you don't need those expensive machines and shut down that entire mafia that runs our election cartel, the machine element of our election cartel. I guess we can't call it a mafia. That's now a racist term or something. We'll call it a cartel. Or is that, no, the oligarchs. Oh, wait. Anyway, what do we call it? I don't know. All these people that run our elections and tell us the final score, we hand our ballots and they control the black boxes. So Mastriano wanted to look inside those black boxes. And well, first DeGraffenreid strikes, and then the rhinos strike. The rhinos leadership of the Pennsylvania State House. Let's see, he's a senator, my bad. Well, I'm not sure. President Pro Tem Jake Corman. I guess he's a senator working in the Senate. Corman is the head of the Pennsylvania Senate. See, this is what doing this later in the day would do. I'd have more prep on this at 10 a.m. I'm not sure, but we'll make sure the facts are right on our website. You can watch this sorry video with the screenshots. You can read for yourself. But Mastriano was replaced. He lost his committee chair or committee headship after raising Cain on this issue. He was in the Senate he was chairman of the Senate Intergovernmental Committee. We had a similar situation in North Carolina when George Cleveland ran a committee in the House, and because of his patriotic work, Representative Lewis stripped him of his committee. Well, stripped him isn't quite the word. They watered down his power, and they co-chaired him, and they put some supervision in there with him, some rhino supervision. And it's how they operate in North Carolina. Cleveland is not, he's like the last man standing. You got Larry Pittman, George Cleveland, and others who maybe pretend or aspire to be as courageous as those two. Well, they certainly want to tap into that energy, but they haven't proven it to me yet. They're good with words, but they haven't proven it in terms of their actions. And what actions? Like maybe get to the bottom of what happened in 2020 with our elections, like maybe do an audit, but we don't have that kind of courage right now in North Carolina. The Mastriano effect is tamped down. That spirit is there's another proverb here I'll read to you that's very clear, very near that one I read earlier. That's when the righteous rejoice, there's great glory, but when the wicked arise, men hide themselves. That's 28:12. When the righteous rejoice, there's great glory, but when the wicked arise, men hide themselves. And that's right at the end of Proverbs 2. It says at the very end of it, 28:28, when the wicked arise, men hide themselves, but when they perish, the righteous increase. Our problem right now in North Carolina and in Pennsylvania is the wicked have arisen. Mastriano, a 30-year Army vet, is standing up to them. It's funny that our legislature, the leadership, doesn't like it when patriots like Army veterans and whatnot go in there and run for office. They don't like that. Two classes they don't like are engineers and veterans. Just say it. So if you're looking at maybe primarying your local rhino over, or even a Democrat over the issue of election integrity, if you're an engineer or a veteran, you are probably overqualified for the job, thus we need you. But anyway, in Pennsylvania, Mastriano got stripped of his committee chairmanship. That's what they do. That's what rhinos do when people step out of line. But Mastriano, just like Marjorie Griffin Taylor, got stripped of all of her chairmanship by a Democrat chair in Washington. She's the congressman from Georgia who dared speak out about election integrity. And so Pelosi did what Pelosi does. But in Pennsylvania, it's a Republican chair, Republican in name only, who did it, who stripped Mastriano of his position. And that's the problem we have, is that spirit of, let's see, is that where we're at? I don't want to go there yet. That spirit of rhinodom is, or rhinosity, is alive and well in North Carolina, and I'll go more about that in a moment. Mastriano is not backing down. If you go to his Twitter page, something happened this past week you might have heard about. It's called the Arizona audit. And Mastriano, he spoke out on this, which he can still do, even though he's not a committee chair. He did speak out and issued a statement tying it to Pennsylvania. And we could tie it to North Carolina just the same. He issued this statement. He said, the historic audit in Maricopa County, Arizona, is complete and significant findings have been brought to light. The legality of over 50,000 ballots is in question, 5 times the margin of victory in the presidential race. This requires further investigation by the Attorney General of Arizona. Most media outlets are rerunning headlines from November instead of reporting on the critical flaws in Arizona's 2020 election. Issues with ballots included 23,000, I'm gonna round these numbers up or round them down, that kind of thing. 23,000 mail-in ballots cast from individuals who no longer lived at the address at which the mail-in ballot was sent. 3,000. Okay, 10,000 potential voters that voted in multiple counties. 9,000 mail-in ballots cast by voters who were mailed one ballot, but somehow had two ballots received back to those voters in that voter's name. So some duplicate voting going on there. I need to stop there. That's a very serious one where it's a big problem for election officials that somewhere they have to balance the books, which they did. The books balance, in all fraudulent activities, the books balance. I mean, fraud is an art, and people know on the surface, you want everything to look good. You look at any financial crimes, it's always when you go down the weeds where you find the crimes. And elections are no different. The fraud is done beneath the surface. We always were looking at voter committing fraud. There's a certain kind of fraud that the voter commits. My good friend Dave Getz he's been looking at the back end of it, saying electoral fraud is the other side of this problem. And truth in lending here, Dave and I have our policy disagreements. He's been slow on this audit thing, but he'll come around. But anyway, he's right on the money when he talks about who's watching the foxes guarding the chicken house. And for the longest time, we were trusting them because Kim Strack was there, but the scales fell off my eyes a couple of years ago. And pause here and regroup. All right, 9,000 mail-in ballots cast by voters who were mailed one ballot, but somehow two ballots were received by the county. So when election officials have to flood the zone with fake ballots, they have to assign those ballots to somebody. I think Dave figured out how they did it with the absentees back in 2016. And it's work I hope to work with him on solving. But there's other areas that Arizona has found that maybe North Carolina, this affects us too. So the fourth bullet down on this letter from Mastriano says about 3,500 ballots in which the official county results do not match who voted. So, wow, the counties, 3,400 ballots in which the official county results do not match who voted. That was a situation where the auditors looked at the ballots and looked at the voter rolls to see, not the ballots, but the conveyance document, either the absentee ballot envelope or the ATV, whatever it is that was signed by the voter when they got the ballot. And in North Carolina, thank God, in North Carolina and Arizona, even on election day, the voter has to sign something. Unlike fraud-friendly Virginia, which is probably the most laughable state elections on the entire East Coast, where if you walk in election day, you don't even sign anything. You just walk in, say your name and address, and voila, you get your ballot. Oh, you show them a piece of plastic with a picture of you on it, but poor Virginians. I feel so sorry for them. Their laws are so screwed up now. Thank you. And rhinos helped do that. It wasn't just a Democrat thing. That was well, I repeat myself. Rhinos and Democrats worked together to subvert election laws in Virginia, and then now the voters have to live with it. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, this may be a clue of where we need to look in our audit in North Carolina. Duplicate ballots. Let's see that bullet, the 3,400 ballots in which the official county results do not match who voted. So is the voter credit being assigned to the right conveyance document? It's because if we know someone voted, in order for the books to balance, the election employee has to match that vote with somebody's name. And we've seen cases where they will cut corners to make it match. One guy in Durham County, I alluded to a couple of days ago, actually went to, he didn't go to jail, but he got convicted and his prison sentence was suspended. He went on probation, but he had affected 1,900 provisional ballots, 1,900. So it's no small little enterprise going on. It's massive. But strangely enough, our legislature takes a see no evil approach. We don't want to look out for this because watch out, you may lose the newbie race. Watch out, you may lose the whatever. Mark Keith Robinson, you may lose that if we go near this. Oh, we just need the facts, guys. We need to know what happened. How bad is this before you go passing laws? And what to look at is stuff like this. This Mastriano letter is a great example of things to look at and figure out, did this happen in North Carolina? These are some very valid questions. Oh, but we don't want to know. We don't want to know. Now, I could go on through this Mastriano letter. It's great. But at the end of the day, at the end of his letter, I think it's over 50,000 when you add all these up. Let's see, duplicate ballots. More duplicate ballots received than originals. That's another 2,500. I'm not sure what that means. About 2,400 ballots cast by voters who had moved out of Maricopa County. Okay. I think what I read in Cyber Ninjas, not only did they move out of the county, but they voted in person. I think that was the deal with that, but I might be wrong. Maybe he combined those two together because, yeah, I have to admit, I've done that before. I lived in, I just gotten out of the Air Force and lived in Goldsboro and voted, didn't realize it was against the law. I just forgot to register and wake after I moved here and the election came and it was a primary or something. It wasn't, I don't think it was a general election. I don't remember, it was a long time ago, but I just went back to Goldsboro and voted. I went back to my old precinct and voted, and that's what happened here. Now, would that affect the presidential election? No, I didn't live in Goldsboro, and I can say that I did not vote in any races that were local because I didn't want to impact those elections. I should say that. Honestly, I don't remember what I did. Thankfully, that ballot's destroyed. That was back in like 1992. But the point is, some of that happens. And it would affect state races if you really got down in the weeds. At this point, I'm not sure that will happen, but it could. It would be, you probably have to do that in one county in North Carolina, maybe two. I don't think they could do it statewide without spending a bazillion dollars, which they'll tell you they don't have, even though they find that money for those solar subsidies, don't they? Okay, anyway, enough politics, enough policy. It's just there's some things you can use that smoke out the rhinos. You can see them, that's just one of them, solar subsidies. But anyway, meanwhile in Arizona, those voters had moved out of the county, and about 2,000 ballots cast by individuals who moved out of state during the 29-day period preceding the election. Now, it is a fact of law that in most states, if you are not registered 30 days, you could conceivably be told that your registration won't count for this election. North Carolina, we're way too fraud friendly for that. So we have this thing called same day registration, where if you just moved here, no matter how long you've lived here, no matter how long you're staying, if you just move here maybe for a day or an hour during early voting, you could walk in, register to vote, your vote counts, and then you can leave. And we see this happening because of the audits we've done. We know that there's a level of fraud there, but election officials and the rhinos and the Democrats are they're okay with that. So that's after all, we don't want to be called a racist. And if we get rid of same day registration, somebody might call us a racist, and then we would be go back to thumb sucking because somebody called us names. And that's kind of what drives the rhinos. They're more concerned about what the media says about them than right or wrong. That's, in a nutshell, that's it. So Mastriano, he's saying, come on now, guys. He's chiding his own legislature to do this. I look at this and go, hey, guys, in North Carolina, this is what we need to look at in North Carolina and find out what the heck happened in 2020. Don't run around passing feel-good laws that if it really feels good, the governor will veto it. And if it's an effective law, forget it. Cooper's going to veto it. You know it. So then you go back to your gullible base and go, well, we tried. So they're really mad at me because now I'm saying, all right, guys, forget that noise. I'm not buying that game. You've played that on me before. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I want to flip all over with our slides. Our problem is that rhino spirit, it is dead in this one case of John McCain. Our problem in North Carolina, it's alive and well with the leadership of North Carolina. And they are stepping on anybody who dares step forward. I would love to be a fly on the wall at the caucus meetings these two gentlemen run roughshod over and see what they're saying about audit. If the base is hey base, if you call your legislator and they lie to you and tell you we're not hearing enough about wanting an audit, then just laugh at them and keep calling and tell 10 of your friends, get on one of the audit channels and tell them. You have got to make sure that people see what you are doing and don't quash your own voice on this. These people need to hear it. And that's very important. That's critical. And I'm very concerned that even the audit force, North Carolina audit force, is now talking about secrecy and not letting people see their page. And this is your voice. And if you shut down that page, you're shutting down that spirit of get this audit done. And that is alarming. That's very alarming. I want you to, if you're in the audit force, you need to be pounding your leadership there to say, don't give up. We win by being persistent. We win by making noise. Otherwise, these people run our elections. If you don't know who these people are, the guy in the middle is our governor, and the guy he's looking at is, we affectionately call him Beelzebub. He is, his name is Mark Elias. And if the Durham indictments and investigation has any seriousness about it, Mark Elias will wind up in prison one day. But I'm just speculating. In my opinion, if you Google him and what he did with the Hillary, the fake dossier, Elias is all over it. And about 2 weeks ago, they got some underling of Elias and prosecuted him. And if the Durham is the fraud that it probably is, if his investigation is as bad as I think it is, that's the end of it. He'll never prosecute Elias, but maybe he will. At any rate, in North Carolina, we are being run by these guys because these guys are afraid of these guys. And these guys should be afraid of picture I don't have up here, but I'll put it up on our website. These guys should be afraid of all of you who see me when I go speak at your county meeting. I'm doing less of these, by the way, but the ones we do, if we have the right audience there and they're in the right mood, you see who these guys should be afraid of. And those are the brand new voters who came into the process who want to know what happened in 2020. Before we move forward, you have to, if you're those people, you want to know what happened. If you're more skeptical of Phil Berger, I just realized in Facebook, you can't see what we're looking at. It's Phil Berger and Tim Moore. It's pictures of their mugshots from their webpage. These are the Senator pro tempore, which means the temporary the president when the president of the Senate's not there. And then and the president of the Senate is the lieutenant governor under North Carolina Constitution. Anyway, so Phil Berger runs the Senate. And then the president comes in just to do what he wants to do and doesn't exert as much power as Senate, the president of the Senate does in, say, Arizona, for good reason. The president of the Senate in Arizona would be the equivalent of Phil Berger. It's not lieutenant governor. I like it the way it is in North Carolina. My point is the lieutenant governor of North Carolina doesn't quite have the same kind of power that Senate President Karen Fann has in Arizona. So it's kind of apples and oranges. Didn't mean to go on that rabbit trail. The point is, these two people, Phil Berger, Senator Phil Berger, and Speaker of the House, Tim Moore, are the problem. They're blocking the audit, and your more base level, your local representatives are not helping the matter because they're afraid of these two gentlemen, because they saw what happened to Mastriano in Pennsylvania. You get that kind of abuse. Mastriano stripped of his chairmanship. The headline on that article was, I didn't show it to anybody. I just started reading the article. It says, Pennsylvania senator stripped of committee chairmanship following feud with GOP leadership over election review. See, this is the headline that's sent around by the thugs and running North Carolina's legislature to make sure everybody sees, hey, this is what happens if you step out of line. Capiche? So they send you this. They send around this article to their rookie legislators who come home and tell you they're going to get to the bottom of this audit. Then they go in and they have their meeting in caucus with these two guys, and these two guys read, nah, we ain't doing that in North Carolina. We're stopping that spirit right here. We're happy with the way this election went, and you should be too, because you're here and we can get rid of you. Capiche? Okay, those are our House and Senate leaders, the voices they're channeling. That's the sound of a rhino, by the way. That's the voice of the rhino. So what do? They strip away the chairmanship of anyone who's actually doing anything, which is kind of a, never mind. I'm going to avoid rabbit trails. I could go off some more. I want to end this. We've been at it way too long. If you stuck with me this long, the deal is in North Carolina, we have to be persistent. Push for the audit. We've seen on the Mastriano, the questions he asks are the more specific questions we have to look at for an audit in North Carolina. So, hey, leadership in North Carolina, get a clue, look at the Mastriano language and start tailoring the questions you need to ask. I'd be happy to help you with it, but I know you hate my guts. It's okay. I'd be happy to help you with this, because the questions you need to ask would not cost $1 bazillion, but it would get to the evidence, because there's things you can look at and need to look at that they're going to destroy anyway. In 2022, they're going to destroy them. In less than 12 months, all that stuff's going to be destroyed, and they're not going to let you look at them. So isn't that interesting that they won't show it to you, but they will destroy it? Oh, because they're concerned about the voters' privacy. Oh, yeah. Watch out. You don't want to be anti-privacy, do you? See, the flip side to privacy is secrecy. They throw you, the gullible voter, oh, we need you to have privacy. That's why someone actually put forth a really bad idea to take away the address of the voter off the voter roll in the name of privacy. That way they could just flood the zone with as many fake ballots as they wanted to. Nobody could check it. And your legislature, they're not going to check it. It's their job to check it, but they're not going to do it because you didn't make them. So we need a sea change in our legislature. It'd be nice if we could do this by flushing out the rhinos and keeping the Republican Party in leadership. But I don't know if that's possible, to be honest. And typically in North Carolina history, that's not the way it works. When the last time this kind of betrayal happened, it was with the lottery. The leadership sold out the base. They sold out all the low-level politicians. And then David Minor and Rick Edens, among others, and Mike Hager, these people, they sold us out, and they colluded with the Democrats to get the lottery. And then so the Republican base stayed home, and the Democrats won. And then, they did it themselves. And that was the lottery. The damage is still being done. It's a tax on the poor. It's a whole nother issue, and I don't want to go there. But it created a wave election where the Republicans stayed home, Democrats won. We'd like to avoid that. The way we do that is by primary challenging enough people who, we have to have this done. They can't run on this for 2022. They have to do it now, because in 2022, it'll be too late. It'll be by the time they run and get elected, that evidence will be gone. So what we need now is somebody with courage. These two guys, Berger and Moore, they could pick this fight right now But hey, guys, there are other ways to do this. Hey, committee chairman, call me. There are ways to do this where you don't have to go through these two guys. Well, particularly Berger. There's a way around Berger that you can do this, and you can actually get it done. You might lose your chairmanship, but you'll have a national following if you do. So it may look bad for you, but I would dare say that Mastriano is good things are going to happen to Dougie Fresh. He's going to be. This guy is a rock star, and he is going places. Who knows? He may be the next Speaker of the Senate or whatever they call him in Pennsylvania, because he now has a national base, a national following. People send him money, and when people send him money, he can fight the thugs running his legislature, or in our case, it's Phil Berger and Tim Moore. So I'm just looking for someone with the courage to stick their head up out of the foxhole and get it blown off by the thugs in North Carolina. Pull a Mastriano. Ask those questions. Ask those hard questions and take your risk, because that's what leadership does. You take risk. We have none of that yet. So prepare to be boarded. Prepare to, I got rid of that graphic. Prepare to be boarded. We're going to board this place, or we're going to sink your ship, because there's people who you can blame me all you want to, but those Trump voters out there, they've lost trust in the system. You have to earn their trust. In Pennsylvania, they figured that out. In North Carolina, they haven't. They think they can run around and just tell you it was perfect elections. Reference that Michael Watley video that aired last week, where he was telling people what a great election it was, and the audience booed him. The base is not buying this. So either you win or you sink your party, because you can protect the Veronica DeGraffenreids and the Karen Prissy Bells. You can protect them, or you can look out for your base. And if you're going to protect the election cartel, okay, well, pox on both your houses. It's sad because North Carolina's going blue, but don't blame me. This is on you, pal. Now, to those of you who are watching who are not colluding with Phil Berger and Tim Moore, contact your local lawmakers and say, hey, you've got to do something now. You've got to do something now about this. And that's where we leave it. So I'm going to leave all this at you and say, what are you going to do? When they give you some chin music, what are you going to do? All right, I could ramble on way too long, and I already have. So I'm going to maybe end this video, end this whole rant, and bid you to have a nice day. We'll stop our recording here, and then I'll